Hey, yo, Chevy truck driver. How the flock are you? Well, this one goes out to veterans. Took me about 40 years to decide to hook up with the VA for medical care and stuff like that. Reason being because when my dad lived in Florida, he's a World War II and Vietnam vet, Bronze Star Award winner, had some heart problems, and twice while he lived down in Port Charlotte, Florida, had to go to a VA hospital, and had heart problems, and they kept blowing him off and blowing him off and blowing him off, until his wife sat there and pulled him out and put him in a private hospital, at which point the doctor sat there and said in another 6 hours he'd have been dead, and they had to put some stents in his heart. So I was, and still am, skeptical of the VA. Add into the fact that 10 years ago, the government sat there and said the VA will upgrade everything. They will upgrade their care, they will upgrade their processing and everything else. And yet here we are 10 years later, only 10% of all veteran VA files are electronic, the rest are still paper. Submitting a claim for PTSD or Agent Orange or anything else, if you're lucky, will take you anywhere from 18 months to 3 years. It is a statistical fact, and you can go look it up, that right now as I'm speaking, there's approximately 800,000 VA claims on file that have not been attended to, looked at, processed, or anything else. Our government system is broken. Our VA system is very broken. Promises made to veterans are being broken daily. I hooked up with the VA here recently after the prodding of a couple of my local buddies from Vietnam. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. The only thing I was concerned about, I wanted to go in and get tested for possibilities regarding Agent Orange and stuff like that. I went in and I saw a VA lawyer, rep type person, some other people, and I told them, I said, all I care about is the possibility of Agent Orange. Well, in their process, they sat there and said, well, you know, we're going to put you in for PTSD and all the rest of that. Next thing I know, I've got appointments to go see a shrink and a couple other things, and I sat there and I said, whoa, ain't no way. Because I'd seen online, and you can look it up on YouTube, where veterans that have been classified with PTSD have had letters sent to them by the VA that says you have to give up your Second Amendment rights and turn in your firearms because you're unstable. Really? So anyhow, I went and I made my first visit there back, I'm going to say in November. Did the usual thing, talked to the VA doctor, had some blood tests run, mainly because I know I've got high cholesterol and I've got a little bit of a blood pressure problem. And I was out of the medications that I've had from a couple of years before to help control it. But I'm borderline on both of them, if you know what I mean. So I had a follow-up appointment to get the results of the test on December 4th. I couldn't make it. It was short notice. I got called away. I came back. I called up the VA to reschedule. I talked to the lady. Now, today is the 20th of December. I called maybe a week ago. The closest appointment I can get to go into the VA in Camden, New Jersey is January 28th, over 6 weeks away. And I keep asking myself, is this really how the VA operates? If you need medical care and you're eligible under the VA with your prior service and all that as a veteran, 6 weeks to get an appointment? And of course the other thing is, like I called up one time and they sat there and said, well, if this is an emergency, call 911 and go to the hospital. These are the people who are supposed to take care of vets. I'm sorry, what's wrong with this picture? If I'm a veteran, I'm enrolled in the VA, I'm getting service from the Veterans Administration in the hospital. I gotta wait 6 weeks to see a VA doctor, and yet it could possibly be a life and death thing, or a service-related thing. 6 weeks? Kind of reminds me when my buddy Billy DeToro died a couple of years back. Billy got diagnosed with cancer. This is going back a couple of years. He went into the Philly VA. They said, well, you know, you got 6 months to a year to live. And they took a couple of samples. They never thought anything about a lung transplant or anything like that. You know, never pushed him through chemo. 6 months later, sure as shit, he was dead. And like me, being a veteran, being divorced, having been through all the bad times, neither one of us has got life insurance. So it was up to our family members to bury him. And of course, we all know that the Social Security only pays $255 towards your burial rights. So his family had to come up with the money to get him cremated and put into a veteran cemetery in Gloucester County. But I keep asking myself, why am I even bothering to hook up with the VA when you get this kind of service? This is not service. This is a freaking joke. And yet I've seen on veteran sites and every place else, guys sitting there screaming and hollering, you know, oh, you got to hook up, you got to get your benefits, you got to get your disability. Guys complaining, I've only got 30% disability, I need more, what can I do? You know, guys with 90% disability, and yet there's guys out there that seriously, I mean seriously, need that kind of help. So I guess I'm coming to the point in time that, okay, I gave the VA their best shot, and this is what they handed back to me. As much as I hate Obamacare and all the rest of that, I think Obamacare might give you better service than the VA. That's my personal opinion. You're not going to change it. When you sit there and call a VA call-in center to get an appointment for whatever it is, and they tell you it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks until a doctor can see you, what's wrong with this picture? Explain this to me, would you? How good is the VA? I remember a couple of years back, down in Washington, D.C., the VA hospital down there was investigated. And they had troops living in barracks and all that. Guys that, you know, Afghanistan and all that in the Middle East, that were living in conditions in buildings that were falling apart. And it wasn't until it made the news media that the VA and our wonderful government did anything to correct it. Okay, I'm a skeptic. But see, I've got enough history behind how I've seen it's operated. Nothing's changed. Not in over 10 years. Not since my father was alive and living in Florida. And damn near got killed twice by the VA hospitals and the VA doctors. My buddy Billy DeToro. Here, take some pills, go home, wait to die. This is medical care for veterans? And now this new budget that our Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, passed, even denied an increase in veterans' benefits for the disabled or anybody else. This is how our government takes care of guys that wrote the check, put their name on the line to protect and defend the Constitution. I think welfare recipients get better care than veterans get. And that, in my eyes, is a cotton-picking major shame on our government on how veterans are treated. We went out there, we wrote the check, we went to combat, we did it all, willing to sit there and give up our lives if needs be for our government. And this is how we're being treated when we need help. I'm sorry, folks. And I know there's going to be a lot of vets out there banging on me. But you know what? When you see things like this, it's got to make you shake your head and say, this is reality? This is how veterans are treated? Oh, and let's not forget the active duty military here recently with Obamacare and the government. Families of veterans, families of active duty military are trying to be shoved off of TRICARE? Really? And TRICARE is no bargain, trust me. I've got friends that have been on TRICARE, and sometimes trying to get help and medical assistance through them takes an act of Jesus. I don't know, folks. You got a better idea. You know something better. You know something that we can light a fire under the VA and our government to take care of our military troops and our veterans. You let me know, because you know what? From what I see, all we are getting is lip service. Truck driver's opinion.